I cannot believe the party switch myth is the sword that people are willing to die on. So let's get into it.
Indeed, let's get into it. In this video, she does a lot in 3 minutes. She pretends like party affiliation had anything to do with how a member of Congress voted for the 1964 Civil Rights Act. She pretends like racism had nothing to do with the reason that a number of African Americans voted Democrat in the 1930s. She also once again pushes that unverified quote of LBJ that the right-wingers love to push, despite the fact that there's literally no evidence to back it up. And she rounds it all up by being incredibly racist and implying that the only reason black people vote Democrat is because we're all on welfare. As I said, a lot in 3 minutes. Make no mistake, party affiliation had literally nothing to do with how you voted for the 1964 Civil Rights Act. If you were a Northerner, you supported it, regardless of your party, with few exceptions. If you were a Southerner, you opposed it, once again, with few exceptions. Republicans like to over-associate party affiliation with who supported racism back then, when the truth is it had very little to do with party affiliation, more to do with location. For most of American history, and one could argue it may be different today, I'd argue otherwise, Southerners were the racist. Associating with Southerners and courting them politically meant you might as well just join the Klan. All Southern Republicans opposed the Civil Rights Act. This post is accurate. I spent 30 minutes counting them myself. Make no mistake, the reason some black people began to vote Democrat in the 1930s is because in 1927 the Great Mississippi River flooded, and white communities were saved when water was diverted from white communities by flooding black communities. And the federal government did this under Republican Calvin Coolidge and his Secretary of Commerce at the time, Herbert Hoover. Moreover, the National Guardsmen who removed black people from their areas then began to murder and rape them, and the Republicans did nothing to stop this, telling many African Americans that the Republican Party was just as racist as the Democratic Party, although a majority of them still voted Republican at the time. Although FDR's successful policies did contribute to that, make no mistake, the racism played just as big of a role. Make no mistake, for the majority of American history, if you were trying to help white Southerners, you were trying to hurt black people. Because that is true Southern heritage. And Coolidge and Hoover knew exactly what they were doing. Ronald Reagan and Nixon also knew what they were doing. The Southern strategy was created to harm black people and to court white Southerners. The first place Reagan campaigned was a racist little town in Mississippi that had lynched 3 civil rights activists. And he speaked about states' rights because, yeah, that's what they needed, more autonomy. Pause to read this quote from Lee Atwater. According to Clarence Towns, there is a fear of what is called the Southern strategy. Blacks understand their well-being is being sacrificed for political.